Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who want to do more than just survive. I'm Liz Frericks, and this is my husband Evan.
Good morning.
And we're so glad you guys are here with us today on this wonderful Thursday.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us and listening to the show. If you find this episode particularly interesting or helpful, please share it with a friend. Maybe have an interesting conversation with them about it. You know, this is a tough week for that, but that's exactly what we're talking about today, is talking about being honest about our sin with others and being willing to hit bottom. So
yeah, this could be a good
shot.
way to introduce the topic.
Yeah.
You're like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. What do you think of this episode? Anyway, since it's Thursday, the CSC we're talking about is being connected, which encompasses both our connection to God and our connection to other people. And as Evan said, we've been talking about hitting bottom this whole week. So we thought we'd talk about sharing our stuff with other people.
This is such a vital part of how the gospel works, I think, is to have this community. I mean, the word church, you know, in our English Bible is really just the word for assembly. You know, it's a gathering together of people.
Right.
And part of that, you know, we confess our sin to God, but we also are commanded to confess it to other people too. It's very, very difficult though. And
yes.
it's got its own problems too. I mean, you don't always know if this other person's a safe person to talk to about that or not.
Well, and I think just like we were talking yesterday about how we tend to fall into two spectrums, two pitfalls, one on either end of the spectrum. Either we live in denial or, you know, we take on our sin as part of our identity. We kind of do the same thing here. Like either we don't share anything, so we're like in denial to our friends and family, or we share everything.
Yeah, and it could be inappropriate sharing, kind of like, maybe if I say like vomit sharing, like just, whoa, like here's everything. And like, I think we know people like that where it's just like, it's so overwhelming talking to you because you're telling me everything and I can't believe you're saying that. And I didn't realize we were on that level of trust with one another and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, then the other totally closed off and nobody knows what's going on inside your heart and mind.
Right.
We don't want to live in either of those places.
Well, and like we talked about a few weeks ago, neither of those is vulnerability. You know, we want to be vulnerable with people so that we can grow and change, because that's the place where change can happen.
Mm-hmm. The same strategy, again, drives us to either one of those things because neither one of them are vulnerability. But it's when we're doing it wrong, it's because of things like we don't want to be seen as weak. We don't want to be judged. And, you know, a more spiritual excuse would be, well, can't I just have my personal relationship with Jesus?
Yeah.
And have to involve all those other people. But that's not right either.
Well, I think fear, again, is another big one. You know, fear that people will reject you, or fear that they'll have a different perspective of you. That, you know, because I think in the church sometimes we fall on the end of the spectrum of turning things into someone else's identity. So if somebody shares with you like, oh yeah, I'm an alcoholic, it can be easy to be like, okay, you're now labeled alcoholic in my brain, you know, instead of really giving room to that person to be multifaceted and to, you know, deal with their underlying problems. So maybe we just don't want to be labeled.
Maybe another kind of bump along the road is, well, I don't know that there's anybody safe to talk to, or I don't know where because it is true. There are people of different spiritual ages in the church, you know, different places in life. And I think it's true. You're not going to just walk into a church of 100 people and tell everybody the exact same thing about your spiritual walk and your struggles. So it's like, well, which are the right people and how do I know? And it's a process to try to find the people you're going to be sharing with so that we can be obedient to God. I mean, we don't want to be disingenuous with the people we're choosing not to share with. We want to be authentic with everyone, but it's still, you know,
it's different levels. Not inauthenticity is when you're like, okay, this is how far into my house I'm letting you. If that's, you know, your house is your identity. And then like, oh, I'm letting you in a little further because we've grown past to that point. You know?
It's a process. Yeah. And you don't have 200 best friends. You have maybe 2 or 3, right? Or 1. I mean, there's some appropriate level. And then there's, you know, there's circles of groups of of closeness. What all that to say, it is possible to find those people that can hear the dark parts of your soul and walk through that pain and that and not pile on more shame and walk towards closer to God together. Those people are out there.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I think the first thing we have to do is share with God, to say, this is where I'm at, this is what's going on. And we talked about that a little bit on Tuesday, but, we really want to make sure that we're connected with God first and foremost. But then as far as finding safe people to connect with, one of the things that we talk about consistently is vulnerability tests. Mm-hmm. Sharing something that's a little vulnerable, but it's not going to make or break you if, that information got out into everybody in the church. Mm-hmm. Suddenly the prayer chain knows all about it. Or, if they respond poorly to it. So sharing something small that can help you get a feel for whether that person is a good person to be vulnerable with. Brene Brown, in her book, Daring Greatly, one of her examples was sharing with this mom. It was like their kids' first day of school, and she said something like, I'm lucky if my kids even get lunches, and, let alone if they get the right lunch.
Right.
And the other mom just kind of looked at her and was like, I never have that problem. And she was like, well, cross you off my list, Yeah.
Well, yeah, to at least talk about that topic with.
Right.
Or maybe in general, because, that's a rejection right off the bat there.
Right. Well, and if they can't handle that little bit of vulnerability well, they're not going to be able to handle deeper vulnerability well.
Yeah. So it's a process. And I think the encouragement is keep trying. This is so important. I mean, we're talking about hitting bottom all week. Like, other people need to know where we're at so that we can be, spiritual comrades, so that we can work on abiding together.
We need that accountability of saying, I'm going to stop digging my hole deeper. And then we need people to help us climb back out. And we need God first and foremost, but we need other people to walk the journey with us. So it's important. One of the things I was thinking of, there are great support groups out there and counselors, therapists. There are lots of resources like that you can go to. But one key thing that I would encourage you is to find a program that focuses on graduating you out. We talked about yesterday, instead of being like, yep, you just do this for the rest of your life because that's just who you are now.
That's an excellent point. I've been to different support groups, and one definitely was once you're in, you're a member for life, plan on coming here once a week until you die. And then another one is like, let's do this work. And it was a lot of this emotional work, a lot of, reprogramming, or a lot of just relearning how to handle emotions. And then it's like, let's get you back out on the street, buddy,
Right. Yeah. I love that, because it should be a situation where you deal with those underlying coals and then you move on.
Yeah. But we are also talking about, connecting with people and how important that is. And I think it's also possible to get yourself in a situation where you make a friend, or you've got a group set up where it is maintaining itself still, where it's like, because, our struggles this week and this year might be different next week and next year. And we're going to need to be vulnerable about that new stuff when it comes up, like if you become a parent, that's going to be a whole nother thing to talk about versus, being married without children, or being single and then maybe you get married, or maybe your parents die or something. Like there's always something that we are going to need to be vulnerable with our crew.
Right. Totally.
And, that's part of spiritual growth too. Like the process continues. So it's a balance that needs to be struck. And the nice thing, and another thing that can happen is when we're honest about our struggles and when we're choosing to hit bottom before, like if we can see our life is really headed for destruction, so I'm going to hit bottom now before my hole is 100 feet deeper.
Right.
Those things that we're struggling with very well likely become kind of our new passion for ministry and new areas to do ministry and to be a blessing to other people and to use our experiences, and that is going to happen in groups too. If it's never gets shared, nobody ever knows that you survived alcoholism or you were the child of an alcoholic, and that's and you learn this amazing stuff about God's goodness and God's ability to be your true parent, like we all need to hear that.
Right.
It helps the body grow.
Yeah. So it's important to continue trying to find those people, even if you get rejected a few times. They're out there. As always, pick whether today is going to be awesome or not, whether you're going to strengthen those neural pathways to look for the good things around you or to look for the not so good things around you, because your choice makes a huge difference in your life. We love you guys and we're praying for you. Pray for you guys regularly. Thanks to everybody that's been listening to the show and sharing the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this episode helpful, please do share it. And if you guys have any suggestions for how to help you grow, let us know, because we really want this to be a good tool for you. So we are always open to hearing suggestions.
Yeah, and you can get in touch with us on Twitter, or probably the easiest way is to come onto Facebook, and you can like our page, or we even have a group you can join. So you can search Epic Every Day on Facebook. I think our handle, is like EEDcast. If you just do @EEDcast, that's on Twitter or Facebook, or the link is in the description.
All right, you guys, have an awesome Thursday. Come back tomorrow, and we are going to talk about getting through it and moving on.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.